How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about episode 1 of an all-new Netflix series. This one's entitled Junji Ito Maniac, Japanese Tales of the Macabre. I don't know why they gave it such a long subtitle, whatever, but I don't think that will fit in a YouTube title easily, so I'll just call this Junji Ito Maniac. This came out January 19th, 2023, and the first episode, the one that we'll be talking about today, is called The Strange Hikizuri Siblings. Now, there are actually 2 stories with the Hikizuri siblings collected in Lovesickness. The one that gets adapted into this episode is called The Séance, but we actually have another story, Narumi's Boyfriend, which features this family as well. So if you want to read a little more with these characters, there's a whole extra story for you waiting in Lovesickness. Now, that being said, even though they don't adapt the boyfriend story, they have an out-of-context scene from that story as the opening to this episode for some reason. I don't know, but that's cool. And there is also a passing line of dialogue referencing the other story, so hey, at least we know it is still canon. But anyway, I guess before we dig into this one too far, I do want to take a minute to talk about fan anticipation for this series. I'm a big Junji Ito fan, and I was really wanting, anime with him. His stories as an anthology anime is a really cool idea, and I was cautiously optimistic, and I have to throw in cautiously because before there was Junji Ito Maniac, there was Junji Ito Collection, and Collection has a reputation behind it. Apparently the animation budget got slashed, and Collection, while it features good stories, and for the longest time this was almost all of the Junji Ito anime we had, except for that really rare DVD of Gyo, it was just something we had to make do with. But now we have Netflix coming in, doing a new anthology Junji Ito show, and everybody's hoping that it would be done right this time. And I went ahead, I watched the first 2 episodes. We're only going to be talking about episode 1 now. But I do want to say, this does look significantly better than Collection. Now, the animation is better, but saying your animation is better than Junji Ito Collection doesn't really say much. But the animation is better. I mean, you can still see parts where, the stereotypical anime ways to, work around your budget. You can see a little bit of that. But overall, it's animated enough, it moves enough, it looks fluid enough. But you do get a few fun scenes where you could tell they were doing a little bit extra effort. A scene with a vignette around the edges. There's a fun peephole scene in a door where they get to do all the characters in a fisheye perspective that you knew had to take a bunch of effort. And it does look pretty good. This is obviously in color. Now, we associate Junji Ito stories with that nice cold black and white, which, granted, the way Japanese comics are typically published, that really is more a case of form following function than anything else. But introducing color into this world, well, yeah, there had been some color pages before, but having the whole thing be in color, they actually did it pretty well. Lots of dark, grimy earth tones, keeping a lot of it muted, but also knowing when to pop the colors and work with them. And there's even a few characters that have really bright, distinctive colors. Like, for example, I'm not 100% sure why, but the little kid in this has a bright green shirt and green hair, making him a really distinctive, standout character, cartoony. And also, I do want to say, the dub is good. You obviously still have the option to do Japanese with English subtitles, but for those of you who want the option, Netflix actually did do an effort to make a good dub. So overall, like I said, I've only seen the first 2 so far, but Junji Ito Maniac does look significantly better than Collection, and overall, I really did like it. I've only seen the first two so far, but if I wasn't pausing to do these individual episode reviews, I would have just blown through this series a lot faster. It definitely good for a binge. But anyway, let's talk about this episode. I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about the plot and take some stops to analyze it, but I won't go so far as spoilers, so I won't cover the twist, try to be avoiding the ending chunk, but I do want to analyze this episode and talk a bit about the plot. We open up with the Hikizuri siblings. Obviously, there's 6 of them. 3 guys, 3 girls, and they're all very, very selfish, and they're this wacky, crazy, dysfunctional family. Their parents are dead, and they're buried in the graveyard of their haunted house. Yeah, that's a pretty fun setup right there, but you get things like the little girl being wacky and crazy and full of energy, the little boy being shy, and he'll in turn get picked on by his overly animated sister. You get like the middle daughter who's, a teenager and is too cool and totally over her family. And then you get like the top 3 siblings being very selfish and kind of battling it out for power amongst the family. So yeah, they're all jerks, and they all fight and they all bicker. And actually, this kind of plays out more like a sitcom than anything else. And I know we all want a Junji Ito story. We want to see that deep, dark, and creepy stuff. And there are some fun haunted moments in here, but it is worth noting that Junji Ito does more humor than he really gets credit for. And yeah, this may not be what everyone's looking for from the collection. I'll get into that more in a minute. But I still think it is really fun, and it definitely did get a few laughs out of me. But a good character-defining setup, one of the first things we see in this episode, the older brother is going off to work, but we find out he's not actually working. The Hikizuri family has a fortune, and he doesn't really need to work. But he says, if I don't work, I set a bad example to my younger siblings, so I'm just gonna go into town and mess around all day, not really working, just hanging out. And the thing is, I get the lesson he's trying to teach. He still is lying, but on top of that, every day before he goes to work, he makes all his younger siblings get together and say goodbye to him. Selfish jerks, But anyway, he's resting in a park by the pond when he meets a lady doing spirit photography, and he realizes this lady is very beautiful, she's interested in spirits, and I live in a haunted house with a graveyard. Now's my chance. So he invites her over, she starts taking pictures, but his middle brother is going to try to swoop in and steal the girl from him. And on top of that, he has another problem. His youngest sister, talking about the graves, bringing up the memories of their dead parents, she's going to get upset, remembering the fact that her parents are gone. So he has an idea to spend more time with the girl and to try to win her over, and to appease his younger sister, we'll throw a séance and try to talk to her parents. And of course, when the girl comes over for the séance, she brings her boyfriend, because this is sitcoms, and that's how romance works in sitcoms, all these love triangles and stuff. I won't go too much farther in the story, but needless to say, spooky shenanigans and antics from the family trying to backstab, betray each other, and get what they really want. And overall, a good bit of supernatural fun, really faithful to the comic, and I really did like it. Now that being said, talk about the humor. Like I said earlier, Junji Ito doesn't always get the credit for the humor in his work, but some stories are really funny, and some stories do have a focus on humor. But I do want to call attention to something. Viz, when they put out their books, a lot of people thought they would put out a Soichi collection after they put out a Tomie collection, because Soichi is probably his second most famous character, but instead we had Tomie, Uzumaki, and Gyo, and then a long time, and then the Soichi collection should be coming out in July of this year. But why was there such a gap for one of his most famous characters? A lot of people think Viz waited on the Soichi collection because they didn't think the humor would sell. They think that, or at least purportedly, they think that people come in, they see Junji Ito, they want just regular hardcore scary stuff. And yeah, to be fair, a lot of people do. So I found it odd that while Viz appears to be focusing more on just the horror and shoving the comedy to the back burner, right off the bat in this Netflix show, we jump straight into a comedic episode. And like I said, I found it funny and I did like it, but I know that this is not going to be what a lot of people are looking forward to in a Junji Ito story. You know, a lot of people want creepy, dark stuff with messed up visuals. And I did like the story, but I really think this should have been somewhere in the middle. I mean, why did we not open up with hanging blimps? That was the big thing. That's what everyone is talking about. They're finally doing an adaptation of Hanging Blimps. Why didn't they just put that story first? You know, this is a good episode, but it's a weird little comedy episode, and I don't know why we're opening this way. It just seems very odd. But yeah, it's a humor, it's a comedy, it's a sitcom, but I do want to say also, it's a full episode, which I really did like. I think the manga for this story was one of the longer mangas, so it did warrant it. And you know, you do a sitcom, normally that is about a half-hour time block, so yeah, there's definitely enough material here, and I did like that they had that opportunity. Now, I know some of the other stories, actually most of them, are halves, and I saw the second episode with it being split in halves, and it worked out fine, but I'll talk about that more when we talk about episode 2. But I do want to say, I like that we have an option with this show. I like that this show, if it needs it, will give a story a full episode. And I definitely prefer full episodes, but looking back at Ito's stories, I know not every story, like say The Thing That Drifted Ashore, I know not every story needs a full episode, so I like that we have an option. I like that we are being more flexible with the time. I know that with, like say in Junji Ito Collection, Marriott Mansion, that should not have been a half episode. You really didn't get the feel of time progressing that you really needed, and cutting out things like you didn't get to see the people in the attic. Oh, that sucked. So overall, the time management does seem better in this show. And I do have to say, looking back at everything, I really did enjoy it. Like I said, I want to watch a whole bunch more of these, so I'm going to record these and then probably tonight watch a couple more of them and then get back out here and record more, and I'll space these things out so I'm not just flooding you guys. But overall, definitely first episode of the series, I liked it. I'm not sure how well everybody's going to take the comedy, and if you want to see Junji Ito horror, I mean, this is streaming, you can pick whatever you want. If you want the more standard horror approach, just skip to Hanging Blimps probably. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you, you really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Junji Ito playlist, where you can see my reviews for a lot of the books, as well as I did a US manga guide for this show if you want to see where you can find all the different stories. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.